Welcome to the show, y'all. Welcome to the show, y'all. It's the Greg Davis Show. We gon' talk the talk, so get ready. We came to push the call, educating. So just lock that down and keep it steady. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. Everything's alright. We're gonna help you get your life. It's the Greg Davis Show.
This is the day that the Lord has made. I will, I shall, I must rejoice and be glad in it. And I want the Lord to send now prosperity. You're locked into the Greg Davis Show, but today it's going to be a little bit different. This is an exclusive one-on-one with the man, Greg Davis. This is not a conversation. This is not a talk with Bishop Greg Davis, but this is a one-on-one conversation with the man himself, Gregory Michael Davis. And today's topic is when the right one comes. Where did that come from? How did you come up with that? What inspired you to write this great book? We have a book. It's out. We want you to get it. But we want you to find out the intimate details behind the author, behind the book. So we're going to get right into it. Welcome to his own show, the Gregory Michael Davis.
Glad to be here, Lola George.
Oh, it's so
on
good
the Greg Davis Show.
It's so glad to have. You know, how does it feel to be sitting on the other side?
Well, you know, I'm comfortable because I know the co-pilot is in charge, so I know we're gonna do well.
All right. You know, I am honored and privileged, and I hope that I don't leak right now, because this has been a long time coming. This has been a journey that I've literally watched from the beginning up until now. I've had an opportunity to get to know you, the man, and that's why I opened up by saying this is not about Bishop Greg Davis. This is about the man. Let's start at the beginning. Tell us a little bit about the man, Gregory Davis.
You know, I raised in New York by my mother. She was a prostitute. She lived common law with my stepfather, who was Sam of Sam and Dave, the group that the Blues Brothers were taken after. I hold on, I'm coming, I'm a soul man. Moved to Detroit. Grandparents raised me from the 9 years up, and believe it or not, my first relationship was in New York City with a young lady by the name of Maria. I remember I was 7, 8 years old.
Okay.
Beautiful Hispanic young lady. And of course, we did things we shouldn't have done as kids, believe it or not, because my mother was kind of loose and allowed me to go. And she was the first girl, though, that I had ever, and she was beautiful. I've always loved beautiful women.
He has a type, and we'll get into that. But as his sister, I could look at a woman and be like, "Yep, he has a type." Well, go ahead.
And so, married, very young, to me young, 22 years old. You're not ready to get married. Most people don't even remember that because. But I was married very young, 22. My grandfather told me it would not last 3 months, and it lasted 3 years, but only we forced it to because I didn't want my grandfather to be right, and he was right. We were not ready. It had nothing to do with neither one of us. We were not ready to be married. There was a lot of anger on both of our part, and it didn't work. To then get in a relationship with somebody that I really fell in love with. And I won't name, but I felt the only time that I've really been in love was with that person, and only for my heart to be broken. And 20-something years later, she's still married to the second man that she was with. And so I've only really been in love. I know that sounds strange, and I've been married a couple times, but I've only been in love. Really in love, probably one time. I'm talking about that in love that makes you think about somebody, cry when they're out of your life and all that. As a man, you know, that's a lot to admit. But I've only really been in love one time. Married again, and was married 20 years, and we grew apart. We built ministry, we built family, we built our names, we built a brand, and we're great friends now, but only to look at one another in one day and say, We don't have a marriage. We don't have a relationship. We're friends, but we're not. It's not enough to sustain us. And so I feel as though I've been successful publicly, but what do you do when you've been a private failure in relationship?
Let's talk relationship. You've had an opportunity, and you're in your 50s. So we talked about being married at 20, and like, too young. And then you get married again, and this one lasts 20-something years. But when you look at these relationships, and one of the things that we talked about on our radio show is that we talked about the relationship lifespan. And when you're in your 20s or teenage 20s, you see a girl, you think she's cute, you have great chemistry, you say, hey, that's my girlfriend. 20s.
You don't know yourself.
Right, you don't know yourself.
No.
You don't know yourself at all. In your 20s, you're like, 30s, you kind of get to know them a little bit. You have great chemistry. I know you a little bit, great chemistry. Okay, we try to make this thing work. 40s, you really try to build that friendship because the foundation of a relationship should be friends. When you look back on your life, you've had an opportunity to assess some things, and this is how when the right one comes. What are some of the things that you think you forgot to do?
Get to know me. I think people don't take time to know themselves and be true to yourself. I would say I was really not ready to be married until maybe I was 40 or so. I didn't know me. You still learn. How can you learn someone else and you don't even know yourself? You don't know your likes. You don't know your dislikes. And I think what we do, we harm other people because we're still getting to know each other, get to know ourselves. And here we're bringing this other person in the equation, and now you have to get to know them. And you really don't know a person, and I heard Pastor Kenlock say this, you really don't know a person until you marry them, and then you say, I didn't know them. Well, that's called marriage. Yeah. Because if we do it the biblical way, you don't really know them. I'm not talking about the shacking way. I'm talking about the right way, which is a complexity thing. It's a complex thing that you marry somebody that you don't even know. I don't care how much you went out with them. I don't care how much you dated. I don't care how much you come over each other's house. To move in and live with somebody who keeps the cap off the toothpaste, who leaves the toilet up, who's junky and you're neat, who you're neat and they're junky. That's a lot to contend with, and I think we don't talk about those things because I think in most cases we're in lust. We just want to find somebody, especially, I hate to say this, in the church. We just want to find somebody to be able to have, and I'm going out here, legal sex with.
Okay.
Not to be illegal, not to be in adultery, not to burn. And so we take the scripture, it's better to marry than to burn, but at the end of the day, you're unhappy. And there's so many unhappy people in the body of Christ because they got married for the wrong reasons. But if I look back over it, I should have never been married the first time, and maybe even not even the second time, because the right one, if that's the case, then that says I didn't really find the right one. And then you have to get into the discussion, does God really tell you, pick your husband and wives? That's the debate that goes on now. Because if that's the case, then I'm out of the right one. Because I mean, you know.
So you've had an opportunity to look at yourself. Many people watch you preach all across this country. They listen to you on radio, they watch you on TV, and they have a preconceived notion of who they believe you to be. But what is something about yourself that you've really looked in the mirror and you're honest about who you are to yourself?
I'm very moody. I'm an introvert, which most people don't know.
Yes.
I'm most comfortable in front of this camera with a mic at a pulpit and talking to hundreds and thousands of people. But when it comes to one-on-one, people think that I'm very arrogant, but I'm not. Is that I don't really know what to say outside of doing this. This is what I love to do. I'm very comfortable with this. Other than that, I'm an introvert. And so in order for me to be somebody's right one, you got to be able to put up with my moods. You got to be able to put up with me being an introvert and may not want to talk, which is to be an introvert and then be moody. That's too, that's, I am. Once I get to know you one-on-one, then I'm the craziest person in the world. You always say that.
Right.
And so when I look in the mirror, I look at somebody that's moody. I look at somebody that's very hard to get along with. I look at somebody at 52 years old, pretty much not going to change. I'm already who I'm going to be. And I think you have to take all those things into consideration. But the top couple of things would be moody, and I'm an introvert. I'm very quiet, and I pretty much want things my way.
I laugh.
They all laugh.
Because everything that he just named is so true. People don't realize how much of an introvert you are, number one. They think because they see your anointing that they've seen the person. Two completely different individuals.
What you do and who you are.
Yeah.
I'm not my title.
Yeah.
And here's the irony of the thing. God calls imperfect people to do his will. And when you see me, it's like, you might as well just say we're Superman and Batman. We're the Avengers. When we put on clothes with that anointing in our lives, and here's the irony of that. Most women and men are attracted to what they see in the pulpit and don't understand, or the one on the organ, or the one who's up front, the armor bearer with the pastor. They want the man in the suit. And unfortunately, that's not the man that goes home.
Right.
That's not the woman that goes home. So many of them, we have this discussion, are attracted to the anointing. And when that anointing lifts off, you ain't gonna like Greg.
It's like, who is this person?
Who is he?
Who is this person?
Yeah.
I am someone that I can honestly say I probably spend the most time with you. And I often say to you, I wish people knew you the way I do. I wish they saw you the way I see you, because I get an opportunity to see the funny, the silly, the comical, the heart. I see the mood swings. I see all of that. But for the person that's on the outside looking, they don't get a chance to see you for who you are. And your introvertedness doesn't allow them to just jump right in. Because when you meet people, you be like, hey, but it's after you've reached a level of comfort.
And there's not many people that are able to put up with that, and that's why relationships, not just marriages, fail. Because here's the thing I believe. Everybody has some craziness. You just have to decide what craziness you're going to put up with. And everybody in this studio, upstairs, downstairs, we all have some craziness about us. And really, those of us that preach the gospel, we really got some craziness, because we're trying to convince people to follow somebody can't nobody see. I mean, that's the bottom line. And so everybody has a bit of craziness, and I think you have to decide in a relationship what craziness you want to put up with, whether it's mood swings, whether it's introvert, whether it's harshness. Everybody got something, and you got to figure out in relationship, what's your deal breaker? And when you figure out what's your deal breaker, it's no sense of wasting nobody's time. Say that's a deal breaker, walk away. But we're so desperate for relationship that we're willing to put up with stuff that we know that we don't want to put up with. I'm sorry, it's not my interview.
All right. You're locked into this 101 with the man, Greg Davis. We'll be right back on what? The Greg Davis Show, right after this.
Hey, I'm Greg Davis, and over 3 years ago, I started posting tweets and posts on When the Right One Comes. Well, I tried to stop, but they wouldn't let me stop. So everybody's been asking me to write a book, When the Right One Comes. So I've taken all of my collections of When the Right One Comes, and I'm putting them in one book. You can pre-order the book right now by going to Greg Davis Show at gmail.com. That's Greg Davis Show at gmail.com. Order now, When the Right One Comes.
You're locked into the Greg Davis Show, where we're having an intimate one-on-one with the man himself, Greg Davis. Not Bishop Greg Davis, but Gregory Michael Davis. And we're here talking about his new book. It's going to be the bestseller, When the Right One Comes. We're going to talk about those intimate moments behind some of the quotes here in this great book. So in the last segment, we looked at the man. Let's look a little bit at his relationships, and let's go back 10 years. 10 years ago, you were married, but you were busy in ministry, and you were in a relationship that was growing, but growing in two different directions. And you guys had the heart to look at each other and say, you know what? Our relationship isn't working. But there was a foundation of friendship because you guys are still friends today and you honor one another, and I love that. But you were able to walk away from that relationship. But once you walked away from that relationship, let's talk about how you really felt.
Let me say this too. I'm gonna walk right into that. But one thing you keep saying, you're not talking to Bishop Greg Davis, you're talking to Greg Davis. I think that's, you don't know what you're saying. That is so key. Because if you're looking to be with someone of any kind of influence or power, don't buy into the title. That's not what the two of you doing. And I'm walking right into what you asked me. I was married, of course, to a great preacher. I still love her to this day. We are best of friends. Matter of fact, she's dating, and she came to me to tell me who she was dating, and I've talked to him and all that stuff. That's the kind of friendship we have. That's real friendship.
Right.
And we do acknowledge one thing, and that is we came into each other's life to help push one another. Now, people will say, well, you didn't have to be married to do that. No, we didn't, but we were, and that's the way it went. She's a great preacher, Pastor Kim Davis. She preaches across this country. She has two powerful churches, one that I helped actually started, and she has both of the churches. When I walked away some 5-6 years ago now, I looked in the rearview mirror of our house and I said, you know what? I'm getting ready to be happy. Was I happy? No, I wasn't happy. I was doing ministry. That's all we did. I would fly to Detroit this was my schedule. I would fly to Detroit every Thursday, do my show on Friday, come back on Saturday. We'd have dinner. We'd sit there and text and talk about ministry, talk about our daughter, what's going on at the churches. Sunday I'd preach. Get on the plane and travel around the country during the week, preach. I'd come back on Tuesday, do Bible class, preach somewhere else, do TV again on Friday, and it would happen in cycles. Prior to that, I was traveling across the country doing 7 Days of Glory, doing about 10 of those a year. Me and 15 people traveling across the country. Plus, one year I preached in over 180 churches. Wow. Yeah. 1 year, and I had my children in ministry. We called it the family business. The only time we spent time with the kids would be when we went on vacation. We only did ministry. There was no intimacy really. It was like a chore, and it was not really intimacy. We were not into each other. It was like, come on, let's just do this, and we're done. We went from one conference to another. We went from one revival to another. We went from one project to another. How do you live like that? And there's so many people in ministry and in business that are living like that there's no balance, there's no love. They spend time together. It got so bad that we had offices at home right next to each other, and we get up from the bed and we'd have breakfast and we go in our offices and we did business all day long.
When you look back on that relationship, in some areas you can say it failed, but in some areas you can say it was successful. If you had anything to change that would suit and fit your needs, what would that be?
Balance. Balance. You got to have balance. Most ministry partners don't have balance. They don't know how to step back and say, we need to take a break. We don't need to take our calendars with us. We don't need to take the people with us. We don't need to talk about the ceiling need fixing at the church or the roof need fixing at the church. We need to go away as a husband and a wife. We need to go away as boyfriend and girlfriend. Because what the problem is husband and wives don't know how to still be boyfriend and girlfriend. They lose that. They lose that. And because of there needs to be vacations with the kids, and then there needs to be vacations with one another. And so many times vacations, listen, Lola. Listen, Linda. Vacation is not going to Manpower. Vacation is not going to MegaFest. Vacation is not going to Full Gospel. I'm sorry, Bishop Jakes and everybody else. We want the family to go, but that's not vacation if I got to go to church. Church is my job. Church is what I do. Going on vacation to a convention and a conference is not vacation. It is not. And so many people go, where are we going this year? We're going to the convocation. That's not vacation if I got to go to church. Vacation is going to the amusement park. It's going to hear good music. It's dating. It's holding hands. It's walking in the park. It's riding along the river. It's doing so many other things. That is not vacation. I remember Bishop Jakes told the story. He said he was taking his wife out, and he told us publicly. He said, baby, go get dressed. We're going out to dinner. And she said, oh, we're going to dinner. He came out with a pair of slacks. She came out with a big hat, her Sunday go to meeting outfit glittering. He said, where you think we're going? She said, we're going. He said, no, we're not going to church. That's all we know. That is the culture that we have created, that we don't know how to go out and enjoy as a couple. Only thing God required in the garden was that in the evening, I'm going to come down and fellowship with you, and you worship, and we fellowship. During the daytime, you and Eve got a chance to just hang out with one another, run around and chase one another, run around and enjoy each other. It wasn't until the fall of man that they had to work hard and labor. He said, I'm going to give you all of this. I'm going to let you enjoy all of this if you just worship me at some point. But we got that wrong. All we do is go to church. And we as preachers, all we do is keep people in church. We tell them to be productive. We tell them to build families, but we never give them time to do it. I know I'm going to get in trouble. My information is on the screen.
Now, these vacations, did you plan these convocation vacations, or did she plan the vacations?
Well, out of fairness, as we got older, we started saying, you know, after Full Gospel, which was our annual conference, we're going to go on a family vacation. And we did that. We would go to Vegas, we would go to Florida, but we would go there, but it was about the kids. So we started taking separate vacations. That's when I knew something was wrong, because we started taking separate vacations from one another because we really had nothing to talk about. There was nothing to talk about. We'd still go on vacation and still talk about the church. So there was no balance.
No balance, no relationship.
No.
Are you lonely?
No.
During that time?
No. I wasn't lonely.
Okay.
Because I was consumed with work.
Okay.
I was consumed with the ministry. I was consumed with kingdom. I was consumed with all. So no. You fool yourself to think that you're not. Because you're fulfilling that with all this stuff. And at the end of the day, all this stuff, literally, we would sit down every year and we would make goals. We would make personal goals and we would make church goals. We would fulfill the personal goals, which means I'm going to write a book. I'm going to buy, we could pick one thing we really wanted to buy. I'm going to buy a new watch. I'm going to buy a new car. There was nothing about us. There was nothing about us. This is where we want to go on vacation. But it was still emptiness. This is what we wanted to do ministry-wise, but it was still emptiness. And you don't know that because always reaching for something else don't mean that you're in a successful marriage. It means you're successful business partners. And you ain't got to be married to do that.
And so the reason I asked about being lonely, because you were definitely fulfilled because you accomplished the goals that you set out. But there's a piece of you that sounds like wasn't fulfilled.
But you don't know that because you're fulfilling it. Whether I'm talking to someone who's in church or whether your thing is your job, your career. We've seen so many African-American movies made. I can't think of the one with Janet Jackson where she was consumed with her career. Different African-Americans are consumed with their careers, but not the marriage because you're trying to get somewhere. You're trying to get, at what cost though? At what expense? It's a wonder that my daughter, getting ready to turn 21, is on the dean's list. Never been pregnant, not alcoholic, not on drugs, proud of her. She's made the dean list every year just about. Michigan State, going into journalism, entertainment news, becoming a senior. It's a wonder. Now, it has shown itself in other ways in our kids. My stepson, he's been married twice. There's been some infidelity in others' marriages and some of our kids. It's shown itself manifested, because all our kids knew was ministry, and we pushed them. Some of them don't even like ministry because of that, because that's all we did. So there's a price to climbing the ladder. I don't care how happy someone's look. There is a price. It manifests itself, and if you tell me it doesn't, I'll tell you you're lying. I don't care how it appears that your family looks good or whatever. If you're not taking time out for what matters first, it is not your business. It is not your corporate ladder. It is not you acquiring another acquisition. It is not buying or building another church. It is your family. And it took me to get to this point to know that.
You've had a tremendous journey. You've had some highs, you've had some lows, you've had you have great family stories. You share them with me often. You have a daughter who is, like you said, on the dean's list, getting ready to graduate in just about another year from Michigan State University. She's chosen to follow in the footsteps.
I got one son who's feeding the hungry once a month, Greg, and Javon's pursuing his music, and I have great kids overall.
Right, you don't have the struggle and the story of, I have to go get my kids out of jail.
But I can't take the credit for that.
You did it together. You guys did it.
No, but I can't even take most of it. I was on the road making money, buying them stuff. Pastor Kim was back taking care of the family. I have to say that.
So the great thing about this scenario, and there's somebody that's watching that's trying to figure out relationship-wise, should I go, should I stay, what's happening with this current situation that I'm in? And you've pretty much told the story of, yes, I've been married 20 years. I was in a situation where we loved each other. We did great things together. But one day we woke up, we looked in each other's eyes and realized that this wasn't the one. When the right one comes, you'll stay. When the right one comes, you won't have to leave. When the right one comes, it won't be an alternative. We've had an opportunity to really take an inward look at Greg Davis, the man. We've been able to hear about the last 20 plus years of his life regarding relationship. We've looked at the family, we've looked at vacations, we looked at how great his children are. But what we did realize is that we're still looking for when the right one comes. Please go to thegregdavisshow.com, and that's where you'll be able to get copies of this book. You want to make sure that you support this great book, because with this book, you're going to receive so many. We have over 600 quotes that came from this man. And with these quotes, hopefully you'll be able to look at just different things that will help you identify when the right one comes. So we will see you next time for part 2 of When the Right One Comes.
Welcome to the